Hello, welcome to Heartfulness Wellness Webinars. Very nice to have you with us. And today I'm going to talk with Barbara Sonvilla about how to foster a healthier and happier life. So I'm just going to introduce Barbara, who's with me. You'll probably see her on your screen on the right. Barbara is a trainer and integrative health promoter. You can see a bit more about Barbara here. She's been a colleague of mine too in Europe, and it was wonderful to work with her. So it's a great pleasure to have Barbara with me today. As you'll see, Barbara's doing a lot of work in places like IBM and talking about lifestyle modifications and the 7 pillars of a healthy lifestyle. So it's a great privilege to have her on one of our webinars to talk about this. And she's also promoting something called 1 Hour for Myself, which are workshops where she takes an integrative approach to health and a meaningful lifestyle. So welcome, Barbara. Lovely to have you with us.
Hi, Judith. So good to see you this way. It's been a long time. I guess it's a couple of years back that we met in person. So yeah, I'm very happy to be on this conversation with Judith. Judith is located in Scotland. She's by profession a physiotherapist and has been working in journalism as well, as I remember, broadcasting, property development even. Yeah, your focus was on anxiety and pain management. I've met Judith the first time in relation to Heartfulness and all the Heartfulness activities. It's a long time ago. It was wonderful always to work with you. And Judith is still now the Vice President of Heartfulness in the UK and Ireland. And as I learned today, part of the European media team. So very glad to go into a conversation on how to build up a happier and healthier life now that the entire planet is still in the crisis caused by the coronavirus. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Barbara. Yeah, it's so good to see you from Austria as well. That's something I forgot to say, was you're coming from Austria. So we're in different parts of Europe, very different parts of Europe, but it's wonderful that we can connect in this way and connect with everyone around the globe. It's quite an extraordinary thing. Yeah.
So maybe mention still that we are both Heartfulness trainers, both Heartfulness trainers for over 15 years. And I guess both Heartfulness meditators for over 20 years.
Indeed. Yeah, it's quite something when you think back to when we started, in fact, yeah. So I'm trying to get on this next slide. Here we go. So today we had a conversation, Barbara and I, about, you know, what are the things in life that make us healthier and happier? What would we put as our key points? If you could just have a little look at this slide, you'll see these 5 points that we came up with. Now, everybody's different and they're not in any particular order, but you might relate to some and you might not relate to others. But we're going to chat about how we can bring about our healthier and happier life and help you to perhaps connect with some of these and maybe change your lifestyle a little bit so that you're able to integrate something into your life which is of a very practical nature and which will help you go forward. So if you've absorbed some of these, that's great. I will just take us off the share now so that we can see you and see each other. Hello.
Yes. Hi.
Yeah, great. So Barbara, you've been doing a lot of work recently with people in very much this sphere. Can you tell a little bit more about that and how you somehow managed to put it into bite sizes so people can really manage this and it doesn't feel all too much, because I know that even with meditation, some people just don't feel ready to sit down and meditate straight away. You know, there's almost a preparation required for us to be in the best possible state, or even a right state to start meditation.
Right. I mean, I know you're a physiotherapist as well. So you see, I think the major challenge nowadays is to calm our systems down, right? We are more or less now, especially in these Corona times, under actually chronic stress. And it's very difficult to relax and to calm down the mind and the bodily system. So when I meet people, and these are two groups of people mainly, the one group is of course young employees in large offices, and the other group is in my community in the countryside, elderly people. So what both share is this need and the wish to have support, to find these islands of calm and stillness, and get help and support how to relax and calm down their minds. So you know that we are both Heartfulness meditation trainer. And of course, my work is deeply not only influenced, actually carried by the fact that I'm a Heartfulness meditation trainer, because I know how it feels and the benefits and the effects of creating within oneself a space which is nourished and carried by a sense of stillness and love or care. So my wish always has been is to create what I call these moments of peace and calm. I call it, you know, the little islands of peace and calm in the stormy waters, which means to offer practical little small solutions and exercises to say, okay, maybe I will worry again in 5 minutes, but for the next 5 minutes, I'll create within me an island of peace and calm. So not more really. Well, and then it depends on the people's natures and personalities, whether they prefer to have breathing exercises or whether they are more, let's say, comfortable with self-reflection, whether I would ask them specific questions and they would note it down for themselves, or whether I would guide them through heartfulness, simple practices. Well, it all depends where I am and in the setting, you know, because I would offer lifestyle and well-being courses as well as heartfulness sessions. So it's a combination. But mainly it's providing oneself the possibility to have these islands of peace and calm and stillness. Getting nourished. Yeah.
I wondered what drew you into this as well, because I think it does help people sometimes to understand that so many of us are in the same boat. We're not, you know, nobody has got it perfect. And we started meditation years ago because both of us, we've discussed this, had so many challenges in our lives. And, you know, people have possibly more challenges, I would say, in the life nowadays is even more challenging than it was when I was young. So what was it that especially drew you into helping people in terms of health?
Wow, what a question. Well, I'll hope I'll be able to give a short answer. Well, I've grown up in a family with a situation where both of my parents were chronically ill. So I was subjected to the issue, oh, there is illness. There's also chronic illness. Well, that's one thing that I got interested in, what makes people heal. what is health and well-being really? Because I figured out, even if you're sick, you can be very happy. And even if you're healthy, you can be a very unhappy person. So it was a sense of astonishment and wonder to figure out what makes the difference. Nowadays, it's called resilience, you know, to put up with things and get stronger. But at that time, I was young. Well, but the second thing was, of course, that I used to worry a lot myself, and I had difficulties in falling asleep because my mind was so overactive, and I was ruminating over the past, you know, preventing me to fall asleep and really relax. So I think that was the main things, and a deep sense of craving without knowing what I would crave for, a deep longing for stillness, but a stillness that would be profound and nourishing. Yeah. How about you? How was it with your?
I think it goes back to the slides that we shared.
Yeah.
Slide that we shared with, you know, what we had as our top, well, I had as my sort of top two things were this ability to relax and rest was really important in understanding health. And the second thing was something about, you know, our mindset. It's, you were saying about some people who are sick can be very happy, but some people are very healthy, can be very miserable. And it boiled back down for me to the fact that I realized that it was the way I was thinking, which brought about the results in my life. And it all came back to me and whether or not I had a good and positive attitude to things. The more positive I could be about something without being unrealistic, or the more comfortable I was in just allowing things to be, the less I stressed about it. And for me, the journey into looking at health was, funnily enough, after becoming a physiotherapist. People would laugh about that because the whole point of physiotherapy is health, but I didn't realize how much our health is bound up with our mindset and our levels of stress until I worked in the psychiatric environment where I helped people to cope with stress and with something called stress management at the time. And through that, I suddenly realized that I was incredibly tense. I hadn't realized it before. It was a real revelation to me. You know, even throughout my training and other work, I hadn't come to that realization. And from there, this really did develop into a realization of where's that stress coming from? It's not just enough to let go and to try to relax. You have to go a little bit deeper. And for me, the going deeper was to see what were the triggers, what were the problems that were bringing this up. And bit by bit, I realized, you know, I reacted to things and I had no control over that. So the journey for me about becoming happier and healthier started with this realization of not being that way, then gently into, you know, what the underlying problems were. And I came to the conclusion for me that the best way to tackle this was to learn a meditation, because without it, I seem to have no ability to control all the other things which were going on. And thankfully, because of my physio background, I really began to understand the connection between the mind and the body, and even the heart and the mind, and also the subconscious systems that we have in our body, which regulate our fight, flight, or even freeze. And from that, I sort of started to put things together. And probably the only place where I found the best information on this was in, you know, India, traditional yoga, and meditation in particular. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A long answer.
Yes. Well, yes, you were mentioning these, you know, that how much stress is wiring itself in our neurobiology and physiology. with this fight and fight response, and this a relationship to the autonomous nervous system, and these two systems in us that work as antagonists, which are called the parasympathicus and the sympathicus, and that meditation and breathing can take us instantly into the rest and digest or rest and repose mode. And that's an essential and important bit of knowledge we need to know. This is also something I often talk to people, you know, that it's really important to get aware of the fact how much we have embodied minds, how much we are interlinked, all those, you know, body, mind, spirit is part of one system, and we can work on all the levels. But it makes, your reply also made me think that only through meditation I became aware that our mind needs a center, you know, a center to rely on, to like an anchor. And the anchor needs to be in myself in order to be and become an integrated person. Because what I saw, you know, within myself when I was younger, that by the end of the day, myself was scattered all over. You know, one bits and piece was in the office, the other part with being with the family and children, and then with the friends, and I was just scattered and not an integrated being. So what I found so wonderfully helpful was to have a practice that would give me the sense of being anchored within myself and integrated. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's something that you're right, that stress becomes so much a part of our lives that we stop registering it, and that's one of the problems, that we have an adaptability to everything that comes at us. And unfortunately, you see this in many professions, and that it's not always a bad thing, in that you become a little bit used to something. You have to be sometimes to cope. You know, if you're a doctor and you reacted too much each time somebody was in a bad way, it would not serve your purpose of being a good doctor. But with stress, the difficulty is that our body keeps accommodating, and to the point where we don't often realize it. And the really important thing, especially something I know you're going to help us with as well today, is to remember to pause and stop what we're doing and tune into our bodies. And even, as I say, after years of training and work, I hadn't even done that throughout the time that I spent as a physiotherapist. And it really started to click for me, especially when I treated people with pain, and particularly back and neck pain, that in the majority, the majority of them were either under huge stress or unhappy. They were the two main factors. And so often just talking about their problems was the thing that removed the pain. And so I started to make a very strong connection between mindset and pain and misery. And it, you know, there are lots of platitudes that we can say to people, like, you know, you can try to sort of work hard at changing your mindset, but I think we've all got to find ways where we can relax about changing our mindset and almost sort of let it happen at a more subtle level. And I think I found that came most naturally through meditation. But for some people who don't feel comfortable meditating, it might be in, you know, what we had in the first slide, thinking of the things that you can be grateful for. And immediately that gentle shift happens in, I take a negative and I switch it somehow to a positive. But I would be interested in hearing more about, you said that obviously that you've got these little sort of bites of what can people do to help themselves, and perhaps this would be a good time to try one of those?
Well, I've brought with me, I thought, because I love it. I love it. It's a heartfulness simple practice called the Ocean of Peace. I don't know whether we should do it now. I would like to try it with all of us for a couple of minutes. I love it because this is the simple practice for creating this island of peace. But before we'll do that, yes, I completely agree. You know, in my experience with myself, my family, and my colleagues in that workplace is that we need to be relaxed and gentle and soft and kind to ourselves to make things ready for change. You know, because like you said, if this is another pressure put on ourselves, amongst the many pressures we have to cope with, it won't work. But the moment we are compassionate with ourselves and be kind and soft in, you know, letting or permitting ourselves, allowing ourselves to have these islands of joy and calm and peace, then in these moments we can like collect like peace, strength. I call it to get in contact with the inner caretaker, because we do have a caretaker within ourselves. And if you get in contact with this inner caretaker, change or shift in attitude towards a more positive and less obsessed with my own problems is becoming possible. So my wish is to provide a space of safety and gentleness, you know, in which these small shifts can happen. And as we know, it takes a month to form a new habit, but it takes little small steps to create something like a natural longing for it. Like if you've one experience, then you want to have another one. You think, oh my goodness, this was lovely. Yes, more of it.
Yeah.
What I've learned though is that sometimes it's people are, you know, kind of afraid to know they now have to build in 30 minutes of meditation in the morning. So it seems for them it's too long a time. So to cut it down into minutes, you see, to say into micro practices that would say a couple of minutes relaxation, you know, a couple of minutes dedicated to breathing, a couple of minutes dedicated to a gratefulness practice, or a practice for compassion will do lots of good and will change the mindset and the inner landscape, you know.
Yes,
I think what chronic stress does, isn't it? That we are not aware any longer how much we get obsessed with all the problems, you know, that the mind is constantly just focusing on the negative aspects, isn't it?
I think that's very true. In fact, one of our fellow trainers, Hester O'Connor, who's a very senior psychologist, she was doing a presentation, and it was so interesting. And she was talking about the psychology of the mind. And I hope I get this right, and she can forgive me if I don't. But what I think she said was, imagine that you're being told three nice things or several nice things about you, and then something, or you know, sort of out of four good things that we hear, we will focus on the one negative, or three good things and the one negative. When that comes to us ourselves, if we were to have a personal criticism, for one personal criticism, we would need another 5 positive statements to help us stop focusing on that one negative. So I think it's really helpful for us to understand just how much we're psychologically programmed almost to focus on negativity, just like you're saying, the negative parts of ourselves. And one of the biggest journeys, I think, into better health and well-being is to have this compassion for yourself, like you were saying, and to permit yourself to take a bit of time for yourself as well, because it's a bit like, you know, the analogy of you can't help someone put on their oxygen mask if you don't have yours on yourself. So without us actually taking that time to focus on ourselves and to permit ourselves to rest, relax, then, you know, we're not really going to get very far. And we probably will just keep churning around with these negative thoughts instead of being able to be gently drawn towards something more positive.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. Yes, and it makes me think, because you mentioned this default mode of our brain that if not focused, it goes on this automatic pilot, or do you call it autopilot mode? And the autopilot mode is always negative thinking. I mean, it's strange because it's mostly an unconscious process. And I found it so highly interesting because what do we do in meditation? We somehow collect our thoughts, bringing it into one thought. It's a focus. And by that, bringing our mind into a single pointedness. It's a training. It doesn't happen overnight. Because this is just how the brain works. We all know that if we love something to do, let's say if you love to design or to draw, while you are drawing and your mind is focused on this activity, there is no space for any other thought. It all flows together. You're a fully integrated being, and naturally a joyful stay would come about. But once this job is over and you think now it's time to relax, the brain goes on autopilot and you start thinking about the past, or getting anxious about tomorrow, and fully you are distracted on many channels parallelly. Yes, so that's why, like as you said, it's so essential to allow yourself to start creating this, little moments for your attitude shift, for your profound attitude shift towards the caring and the gentle kindness towards yourself and the environment. Yes. So what were the other points, Judith?
We had, I think from memory, we had things like obviously creating a nice environment for yourself, and also
connectivity and connection.
Others. Thank you, Barbara. Yes, that's the one thing about meditation, is that sometimes we don't hold a lot in our minds at one go, which is good. Connection to others, and that's been a big difficulty, hasn't it, during this COVID problem, especially for people living on their own. But again, if you can establish a beautiful inner connection to yourself, there is something there that comes about whereby you never feel lonely. It's a really interesting thing that that's been my experience in connecting more and more to your heart. There's a feeling of connection to everyone, no matter where you are. So you stop worrying so much about these sorts of things, and being essentially what I've always described myself as a bit of a lazy person. And this is why Heartfulness suited me beautifully, because I didn't have to try so much to think about all these elements, but they just all sort of gently came in together eventually without so much effort on my part. That these things just started to develop naturally. this feeling of connection. There was no work to do on it. It was marvelous. So for me, I've sort of gone through kind of absorbing all these things that I see people sometimes working so hard on, but they start to blossom in you if you can just calm down, connect yourself to your heart, because it's all there already. And that's not to deny the need to connect for connect with others, but I think that connection is important, though, whether we get it through connection to others or even pets, whatever, anything that makes us feel happy. Nature, it could be as well. Mm-hmm.
Judith, you told me that your parents are still alive, but they don't live with you in your house. So during this Corona lockdown, you couldn't meet them, right? In person. Can you tell me, how did you manage to feel or create the sense of being connected? What did you do specifically?
Well, I think, calling them, I occasionally have to drop off food and things like that so I can see them from a distance. But it has felt strange, like with everyone, that when you can no longer show some sort of affection for someone, there's definitely a feeling of disconnection, even if, because we're not in the normal state of affairs. But yeah, it's interesting. I think it's this sense of connection that has to be there, that, we can send out love and they feel it. We can still have a connection, even if we can't do the normal things that we would like to do. So thinking of people, praying for them if that's what feels comfortable for you, and just contacting them, a chat. Pay attention if they come to mind. Maybe they need a chat with you, they need to talk. So I would try to just, keep awareness there. And that's also developed naturally through meditation, is that if I think of someone, I get, a few times, I get that prompt, okay, I should probably call them, because I have quite a few friends who live completely on their own, and it's been a real struggle for some of them. But there's such a feeling of gratitude in people when you remember them. They know they're being remembered. That is important too. And we all pick these things up unconsciously.
Right.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's fascinating. That's how feeling works, beyond space and time in that sense. Like you can't hide joy. If you're joyful, it's just radiating. The same is if you are remembering a person with love and kindness, it's just radiating, and it's going to be received instantly. And yes, one of the great mysteries I came across is that it's really true. If I, give something, care in a caring way, remembering a person, connecting on the level of heart, the giver, which is me, is gifted or is receiving the same. It's like it's becoming a sharing. You're sending out love and you feel loved. And that's so sensational to me, in the sense that it's not a matter of really effort. It is as natural as the sunlight falling onto your skin. And so yes, this is what I've done a lot too here now. Like you said, if people would come to my mind once, twice, 3 times, that I would know now I need to act upon it in whatever way. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've remembered another one, which was the sense of purpose, in life. I think if we don't feel a sense of purpose in life, then life can feel a bit empty. And a sense of purpose doesn't have to be something grandiose either. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It could just be making a nice, comfortable meal for ourselves, and making a nice, comfortable environment for ourselves, and connecting, as we've talked about, with other people at whatever level that feels right. I think sometimes we, as human beings, we're hard on ourselves because we compare ourselves too much to others, and we all have our own specific journey. So in comparing ourselves and our journey to other people, we can sometimes feel inadequate, or I don't know, lots of things can happen, even jealous. And I've found one of the great things in learning more about myself through meditation is that I've realized that it's enough to do what feels right for me in my own journey, and not to put myself under any pressure to be something that I don't need to be. So that's for somebody else perhaps to do, that we can't do everything. And even the fact that we're swamped sometimes by adverts telling us I should be this or I should be that, or requests for help. It can feel overwhelming to us, especially I think at the moment. There's so much going on in the world. If we were to take all of that on to ourselves, it becomes too much. But we're not here to take everything on ourselves. We're here to take ourselves on, in my opinion. And once I help me, I'm in a much better place to be there for someone else, and not necessarily to help them, but to help them help themselves. And it's sort of, to me, it's like this little sort of row of dominoes, that when I can feel calm, then others around me feel calm. Just like you're saying, it's that feeling of radiating out how we are. Yeah.
I love that. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you gave me so much input. So
I think it's probably time for your lovely exercise, which I'm very much looking forward to.
Okay. Yeah, okay, let's do that. If you are ready, all those who are watching us, I want to do and guide you through a small heartfulness practice called the Ocean of Peace practice. We will do that for, let's say, 5 minutes. If you do it on your own, you can stay there as long as you wish, but maximum 30 minutes, okay? So what I would like to invite you now is to find a comfortable position and gently close your eyes. And now imagine you are in a gentle ocean of peace. The waves are soothing and blissful. Have a firm thought that you are immersed in this ocean of peace. And that the waves are removing all the coverings from your system. So the waves are soothing, blissful, and you are fully immersed in this ocean of peace. And even more so, the waves are removing all heaviness and coverings. Okay, dears.
That was lovely. Thank you, Barbara. It really works. It's just so sweet, so nice, and it's a very lovely technique for people to be able to do in quite a short space of time, just to reconnect and just let things go.
Yeah, I would like to add maybe something which is important to know. You see, there is, I guess, no other. Well, we have, yeah, thank you. It's only yoga, really, yoga science, who has researched the nature of consciousness so deeply and profoundly. And in relation to practice or a small technique, it's good to know that emotions such as anger or anxiety, they do form impressions on our consciousness. and disturbances, you can say. But one needs to know that our real nature is a joyful state. And a practice like this one, this Ocean of Peace practice, it can restore this natural state of joy. And this brings us now, I guess, back to the beginning. You see it of the necessity to start building up well-being, step by step, little by little, because the essential shift needs to be taken towards self-caring attitude, the positive one. Because most essentially in the depths of our being, this is our inner nature. Yeah.
Thank you, Barbara. That's wonderful, very helpful, and I've learned a lot from you already. So I think we need to wrap this session up now and just say thank you so much for coming on. It's been a delight, such a delight to see you after so long, but you've not changed, which is marvelous. You've changed with, of course, we're always changing, but yeah, it's wonderful to have you here. And just for our viewers as well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time, and we hope that you will manage to look after yourselves during this time and going forward. This could be a great opportunity for you and for all of us to change the way that we are, to take some time for ourselves and to really transform our lives. So let's hope we can all manage to make something of it. After this, after we finish, you can also view some more information about Heartfulness around the globe, all the things that we have on offer just now, which are all free. It's extraordinary. You know, there's pretty much everything that Heartfulness offers is free, and so much online help at the moment. So many webinars, especially, you know, these wellness webinars are very popular too. So do take advantage of that, and we look forward to seeing you again at some point. Thanks very much. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody. Take good care. And the word